every website needs to be hosted. And because of this, there are hosting services for websites for you that handle all the technical stuff for you, or don't. Maybe they just rent it out for you and you have to do it all yourself. What we're going to do is we're going to see all the misconceptions out there. We're going to show you step by step how to evaluate a hosting platform. And we're not going to tell you which one's the best now, because that's just not a thing. It's all different based on your needs. So what we're going to start with is the biggest misconception of all, is that the sticker price does not equal the retail price. Normally what they'll do is they'll say your first month is maybe $1.99, $2, something like that, just to bring you in. So this sticker price is really misleading, because yes, it'll be $1.99, but then it'll auto-renew to something like $12.99. Actually, the industry average does not equal anything lower than 400% of the price being increased. It is normally 400% higher than the actual rent itself. This is a huge number, and you must not be led away by this anchoring tactic, by all these tactics that we'll get into later to show you how to evaluate the hosting platform effectively. All right, now let's get into the 3 different varieties of hosting service types. They fall into 3 buckets. Sometimes they're a little bit different, but in general, they fit these 3 different molds. So we're going to use rental analogies or house analogies just so you can get a better understanding of it. So the first is something called a VPS. VPS stands for Virtual Private Server. And what a virtual private server basically is a piece of the pie when it comes to a server. Because you don't need a whole server. A website typically doesn't need a whole server, especially a smaller one. You don't need the entire thing, so they give you a portion of that. So that VPS is more along the lines of a condo, right? You get parts of a house, but you don't own the entire thing, but you also have more responsibilities. You have to do more of the technical side of everything, more or less, and it's typically one of the cheaper options. And then you have managed hosting. So managed hosting is basically shared hosting, but way, way, way easier. They typically have way better support teams. They are on call. They'll update everything for you. They'll do all the technical side for you if you just give them a call. So they'll translate it all for you. It's a really good service if you don't want to learn all the technical stuff. And it's normally not way much higher than a VPS, depending on your provider. So the managed hosting is more like a rental property. If you rent somewhere, you don't have to mow the lawn. You don't have to do any of the maintenance work at all. They'll handle that all for you. So you have the condo and the rent. So what's the house, right? What's just the home? So the home gives you the most liberty to do whatever you want. We'll just say there's no HOA for this home. So the home without an HOA is more like a dedicated cloud server. So this dedicated server is just a spot that they give away for you. They just dedicate this part of the server or an entire server to you, and you can do whatever you want with it. They give you almost nothing because it's just the server itself. It's as bare bones as possible. And it really is only for people who are technical enough to deal with it. If you can't do it technically, there's normally not much support as VPS or managed. So if you're not very technical, I would focus on these 2. And if you want to get into the weeds of everything, dedicated is definitely the way to go. So with those 3 understood, you can now start making your judgments on which one you need. All right, now that we have that out of the way, let's look at the 5 things we should really look for when we're vetting. So when we go to a website that's promoting hosting services, it typically bombards you with all their features, all the stuff they offer, to try to show you that there's a lot of things. A lot of it is just noise. So there's some things to look out for. Does it have HTTPS support, SSL certificates? All these acronyms, you basically need them for it to be secure. HTTPS and SSL. You don't really have to understand what they mean, but sometimes there will be an add-on or an additional charge, and they can really get you with that. So the first thing you should look at, though, is the security. So is the hosting platform secure? Have they ever got hacked before? Do they have a bad reputation in general? What security features do they offer? So the first thing is security. Next, what you want to look for is their downtime or uptime. So that's how long the server is down for in a year, how long it's up for in a year. If your server's down, your website's down. So it's very, very important that it is a very very high number of uptime. And what's weird about this is that the nines matter. And what I mean by that is if you have 99% uptime, that's still 3 or 4 days in a year your website's down. That's a lot of time. Now, if you have 99, like 0.99, that's minutes out of a year. And 0.9 is just 3.5 hours. So it really, really, really matters how detailed the statistics are. They can't just say 99% because that can mean 4 whole days your website's just out of commission whenever they feel like it. So uptime and security. Next, what you want to look for is room to grow. So if your website, or if you plan on your website taking off, which I hope you do, you want room to grow. And what I mean by this is you can start off small, move medium, move large. You don't want one-time fee. You want to be able to grow. And if you can't grow, can you leave? Can you move to a different platform? Is that possible? And that will be touched on later, as well as how you can ensure that. But security, uptime, and room to grow are the 3 most important. Now let's get into the speed. So speed is how fast everything loads. Some people think it's really important. For some things, it is really important. For Amazon, for all the big companies, it is super, super important because how much traffic they get. For smaller businesses, really not as much. I mean, there is a threshold, right? If it takes like 3 seconds for your website to load, that's terrible. But it's not always just your provider. It could also be your website itself is not optimized enough. So speed matters a little bit less than all of the other factors. And then lastly, but almost one of the most important things, is the support. Does the support answer your phone calls? How fast can you understand them? And that goes back into, is it managed or VPS? If it's managed or VPS, typically they have better support. Managed obviously has better support than VPS typically, but the support really, really, really does matter a lot. Actually, the only reason I use WPX is because of their great support team that will manage everything for me. But I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not going to show them. It's up to you which one you want to choose. Now, keeping all of these in mind, it still matters about the price, of course. There are a lot of other factors, and not all of these factors are going to be perfect for you. You may want something super fast. You may want something super slow. It's up to you and your special use case. It's not one objective thing. Now let's move on to the next section. So let's look more into the sticker price versus the actual rent. How can they get away with this? Well, first of all, it's the fine print, of course. You have to read all the fine print, and it's really, really effective. They get so many customers by this. They get a lot of disputes because it's obviously just bad practice and it hurts them PR-wise, but they get so much money, everybody does it. So you must look out for this 400% hike month to month and look for a 3-year period instead of just a couple months. Now, you also want to look at if it says unlimited. Unlimited is a lie. It's a lie for everything. It always is fine print that says, oh, we'll limit you or we'll limit your bandwidth, but we'll still give you some. Sure, it's unlimited. They'll keep giving you some. But if it makes my website really slow, what's the point, right? I mean, they will limit you no matter what. If it was unlimited, why wouldn't Google go in and put all their stuff on it, right? It's just not truly unlimited. So another really important factor is unlimited isn't real. It's just made up, and it's just corporate jargon that they can get away with. Now, of course, this rent price and sticker price might not matter for you if you only have 1 month of the website being up, but most of the time it's not just 1 month. It's way, way longer than that. All right, now we know all this stuff, but what can we actually do about it? So let's take you through a couple scenarios. Let's say it's just a 1-page site. It's just text. It's nothing special at all. Well, what I would do is the absolute minimal possible, because you basically need nothing to host that. So I would, of course, go with the best rent price. Then we move on to the sections. I would probably either do manage or VPS, depending on how technical you want to go, and which one's cheaper. You want to look at all 5 of these, which one's best for you. Speed doesn't matter. Support probably won't either unless you have a lot of updates to it. Growing, probably not if it's just going to stay that way. And uptime and security are the 2 most important factors, but if there's nothing too secure, what's the point, right? You can always change it later. And then you just have to watch out for all of the scams. Now, if you have more of a business site, like 5, 10 pages, I would definitely still go with these 2. The speed matters a lot more in this case because it is a lot more intensive at the same time. Now, it's not going to matter a whole much, but it's more to focus on in general. And you want to look at the sticker price and the difference between that even more, because that's where they really try to get you. And now if you have an e-commerce site, a larger site, you want to look more for the speed especially, and how much storage do they have. You might even need a more expensive plan due to how much load you're putting on the site. If I have 10 products, it's going to be nothing, right? But if I have like 1,000 users every day, that's going to be a lot of bandwidth used. And of course, you still want to start small as small as you can, see if you hit a limit, and then upgrade and keep on upgrading incrementally. You don't want to overspend for something you don't need at all. And you can do that really easily with hosting services. All right, now you have the site, right? Now you have the hosting provider, you have the website, you have everything. Now what do you do? So to manage it, what you really want to do, in case you have to leave at any time so they can't lock you in at all, because they can really do that really fast, especially with places like Shopify, because they own everything on there, basically. You want to create backups. Now you don't want to create a backup just online on their platform, because they can remove that too. You want to create a local backup that you can download and you can move to somewhere else. And what I mean by backup is just what it sounds like. It's just another copy of the entire site. So not only do you want local backups, but you want to own your domain. Think of the domain as a sign or a store name. If you don't own that, you don't own the store, right? You don't know who's directing it to what, right? Like if someone goes to the domain and someone else owns it, they can direct it wherever they want. So the most important thing is the domain. Who owns it? And then the second most important is the backups, so you can move flawlessly and, of course, without any hassle or potential lock-ins from those more shady hosting services that offer cheaper prices, because that's what they do to people. They hike the rates right after you're done with that sticker price. And you want to move? Well, you're all out of luck. You got to stay with them for another couple years, or they will never let you go at all. All right, now let's get into some myths about website hosting. The first myth is that the cheapest is the cheapest. It's not, right? We're talking about that sticker price again. If it's $1.99, it's probably not going to stay that way, and if it stays that way, it's probably really bad service. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. I know you've heard that probably all your life, but in hosting, it is especially true. Now, you also don't want to get tricked by the term unlimited, right? It doesn't mean unlimited. Once again, it means that it is unlimited until you reach a threshold, just like everything else. Instead of stopping it, they just limit things, which is the opposite of unlimited. Another really big misconception is that your domain name, the thing we talked about before, has to be through your hosting provider. It does not at all. Normally hosting providers have it hiked way up. The normal price is around $10 right now for a domain name, depending on the name. Some are really expensive, most are really only $10. And you don't want to pay that premium. It's the same as getting fair food at a fair versus in one of those parking lots where they sell them all the time, right? The location is so big and so different that it really changes the price. Lastly, a powerful site, a really expensive hosting, does not matter if you don't use it. A really powerful, really expensive server is not going to do you any good. Even if you're a huge company, but you get barely any viewers on the website, if you get a really expensive hosting service, no one's going to see it, right? It's like the engine of the car in a showcase, right? No one's going to see it with the hoods down. And the hood's always down with websites. So it's important to keep these misconceptions in mind and not to get overwhelmed by all of the data out there at the same time and make informed judgments. So that moves us on to our last section. It's a strategy to use when you're trying to test out a hosting provider. They almost always have these things called return windows. They have 10 days, 15 days, trial periods. You can call support, ask if they have them. So use the trial period to gauge if you need to get a bigger one, get a smaller one, go to a different provider. Their support is really terrible. Even though I called them before, it actually switched up on me after I bought everything. Because that happens more often than you would ever think. Or if it's slow, if it's lackluster, if it's too confusing. I mean, there are so many things that can go wrong with this. That's why there's so much information up on this board right now. That's why you have to use the trial to your advantage. If you don't use it to your advantage, it will be taking advantage of you. Everybody else uses it, So why shouldn't you to see if this is the right fit for you? All right, now let's do a quick recap. So the first step is to realize the sticker price doesn't equal the rent, of course. But in the real first step in the process is to figure out which category you need. Do you need the house? Do you need the condo or the rent? And why do you need each of those, right? After you've decided on that for your specific purpose, it is better to go and look at these 5 characteristics of all of them, create a spreadsheet, create whatever you need to see, maybe you can just even commit it to memory, of why you need this specific category, justify it to yourself in writing so you actually know you need it. If it's just in your head, sometimes we can have crazy thoughts. I know I have them all the time. It just completely out of the blue, just wrong when I think them. And when I write it down, I can analyze it and figure out, okay, that was pretty dumb. But speed is one of the biggest misconceptions out there with them. Do not get carried away with how fast it is. They try to push it onto you to get that money, but that's not a big deal. Next, it's to own the domain, get a bunch of backups after you own it, and really take care of your website. Hosting is only the back part of it. No one sees it. So if you don't have a good design, if you don't have a good this, that, advertising, if no one ever sees it, what's the point, right? So don't fall for the unlimited again. And then after all of that, use the trial. Please use the trial. The trial is your friend. If it doesn't work out well, all right, and that brings us to the end. So that brings us to the end. Thank you for watching this far. I hope you learned something. If you need, you can always screenshot this to use it as a cheat sheet of sorts. I'm making more videos. There's a playlist right now if you want to learn more about everything. Email me, text me, look at my website. I have a bunch of different ways to contact me. If you have any questions, I would be happy to look at them. Have a good one.